Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to another chat with the Common Sense Guide. Was supposed to just be with Magog today, but he's been able to bring a friend, and I'm not going to say no to somebody like Undoomed. So it's me, Magog, and Undoomed talking about America and riots, demonstrations, politics in general. So should be interesting. I mean, we've got the unprofessionals, right? So something's bound to happen.
Something's bound to go wrong.
Yep. now, strange guy I've never talked to. You shut up. Me and Undoomed are going to talk now.
Yeah, but my channel's not doing that well, so I just thought I'd bring you two on, let you guys talk, and just pretend that I did some content. I thought that'd do.
Yeah, just put it up on your Patreon.
Yeah, we're gonna
exactly behind the paywall.
We're going to change our show's name to the Hijackers, and we're just going to go to other people's channels.
Can we get stuff for that?
I know, right?
Maybe that's a bad business plan.
It's bad. Like, we're not getting any money whatsoever. We're the unprofessional Hijackers. That's what we are.
Yeah, we are so unprofessional. We don't even make stuff on our own channel. Like, okay, that's stupid.
We're the type of people that break into a bank vault and put money in it.
Exactly.
Like the bank manager comes in the next morning and be like, "How is there more money in this vault than yesterday? I don't understand." And then we're like driving away going, "Ah!"
Really unprofessional bank robbers.
Yeah, really unprofessional.
Wouldn't that completely go against your ideologies then? If you're putting more money into the banks, you're supposed to be taking it away, aren't you?
I suppose.
I mean, is there a bank ideology? I'm unaware of this.
No, I think keeping money, earning money.
Yes, he's saying we're capitalists and we like to earn money.
Yes, of course. I'm not really following the banking thing though. I mean,
it was a
banking is a necessary evil, but it's still evil, but it's still necessary. So there you go.
It was a joke, Undoomed. It was a joke. Not everything's literal. I may be British, but I can have a sense of humor.
Yes,
Sorry about ruining your joke. Go ahead.
It's not so funny when you have to explain shit. God damn it.
Yeah, the English have a sense of humor, but their sense of humor is a dry martini shaken, not stirred.
Well, I mean, if you're Hugh Laurie, you have a sense of humor.
Yeah, well, he did spend quite a lot of time in America, so he kind of adopted your sense of humor rather than ours.
That makes sense.
I disagree. Hugh Laurie's always been funny.
No, he's always been funny, but his sense of humor changed since he went over to America.
I only know that he's like the only British actor that has ever been able to fool me. I never knew that he existed. And he was like, what? He's not American? Because usually when British actors try to fake an American accent, you're like, yeah, right, dude. That's not fooling anyone.
They're better at it than we are doing the British accent.
No, they're not. They're not. I can spot them 99% of the time.
But that's not what he's saying. He's saying that on average, that we can pull off your accent better than you guys can pull off ours.
I'm going to need to see some scientific data on that. But the point is, I couldn't tell Hugh Laurie was not American. I've never heard of him before House. So when I saw House, I was like, oh, that's a great actor. And then there were these interviews came out and like, wait a minute.
God damn it!
Yeah,
he's a limey.
I knew because I grew up watching PBS, and PBS would play, like Red Dwarf and Blackadder, and Hugh Laurie was in Blackadder.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, like when House came out, I
didn't know about that back then. Yeah.
Yeah. And they'd play like old episodes of Faulty Towers, Monty Python, things like that. So I grew up on British comedy actually.
Mm-hmm.
But some British people and Australian people have fooled me. Like one of the ones that fooled me was Charlie Hunnam. I think that's how you say his name, or Hunnam. He's the guy who, I had no idea who he was until
I think
watched
Australian people are better at it, though.
He's the main character in Sons of Anarchy. I had no idea he was British. No idea whatsoever.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a fucking limey for sure. And Australian people are slightly better than British people, I think
so.
At doing the American accent.
Hey, I'll kick you both.
I think it's because Australians have a bit more of that kind of, like that history. They're not as proper. It's kind of like America, where we're all kind of colonies of England.
Well, they have a twang.
Okay, I like that.
They have a little bit of a twang,
Well, it depends on the character they're doing. Like Hugh Jackman.
No. I mean, Australians have a bit of a twang, so it's kind of more natural for them.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it is Australians are the rednecks of the British Empire, and Americans are the hillbillies of the British Empire. Like, we're all the backwater colonies that like rebelled and was like, "Get the fuck off our lawn!" Like that, like.
Yeah, something like that.
So I think
Canadians.
Yeah, so I think the Australians are just better at kind of doing the American accent. Now, like the Canadians, they just sound like Northern American. Like people in Minnesota sound Canadian. So I mean, it's to me, Canadian sounds like an American accent anyway. Like
it is. It's just certain words like sorry and a boot. And,
and they talk about the Mounties.
Yeah.
And, we don't call our police Mounties, okay? Like, that's just not very few of our police ride horses, though there are some. New Orleans is famous for that, actually. A lot of police on horses.
Yeah, but they have an actual police, like agency that's called the Royal Mounted, what is it? Royal Mounted Police, something?
Yeah, they're Mounties, literally, mounted.
Yeah,
mounted on horses.
Right. And that's kind of like their, as far as I understand it, that's kind of like their FBI or something, right?
They kind of do all the jobs because Canada doesn't have like much.
No, but seriously, that's like sort of they span all the states or provinces or whatever they call it, right?
Yeah, they're basically like federal officers.
Yeah, so they're the feds.
Kinda, I guess. I'd have to talk to a Canadian about that, but yeah.
This is just what I've sort of picked up from crime shows. So don't take my word for it.
This is what Americans think of Canada. Like we have more respect for British people, and Canada's like joined on our border. Like it's the same landmass, and we have less respect for them than fucking Britain.
I suppose I better use this as a segue.
let me prove it to you. When the president of the United States, it doesn't matter who the president is, the president of the United States secretary comes in and goes, "Sir, the Prime Minister of England's on the phone," or the Queen is on the phone. He's going to be like, "Clear my schedule for the next 5 minutes." When the Canadian Prime Minister's on the phone, he's like, "Tell him I'll call him back."
To be fair, with Trump in power, I can honestly think that is something that would actually happen.
Yeah, Justin Trudeau's on the phone. Tell him I'm busy. I'm busy eating.
Well, he's like one of those magic 8 balls. You just don't know,
right? Anyway, you brought me on the stream, and I invited Undoom to wreck the party, and we were supposed to talk about what's going on in the world, what's going on in America.
You did warn me that the unprofessionals were on, and well, you're here. I suppose what I really would want to talk about at the beginning is obviously you guys probably have the same opinion as me about what happened with George Floyd is absolutely horrendous. Do you think before we go into the actual, like, what's happening so far, I think we could probably agree that that would have been something that everybody was coming together over and probably had the biggest opportunity to actually do something about any sort of reform with any police at all in the US, but now probably not going to happen?
Yeah, that's what's so weird about this situation is that pretty much outside of just like some really hateful kind of white supremacist types, everybody pretty much agreed that was fucked up. Like everybody agreed that those cops were way in the wrong. And I have friends that are cops. I have a family member that's a cop, and not a single cop I know agrees with how those cops handled that situation.
Mm.
You know, their training. Nobody is trained to keep your knee on somebody's neck for 9 minutes. Okay, like it's just not part of the training. Like you're supposed to render aid if somebody in your custody is having medical problems, is complaining about not breathing, things like that. Once he was subdued and handcuffed, there was no need to do any of that kind of force. And the cops standing around, which by the way were not white cops. This was not like the Klan, you know, like there wasn't like a secret Klan group. Like one of the cops was, I think, Asian. Another cop was like Latino or like half Latino.
Yeah.
Like, come on, this was definitely police brutality and an over exertion of force.
See, I don't know how much that you dug into any of this, but as bad as Chauvin was, Derek Chauvin, the police officer who put his knee down, I can't remember the guy's first name, but the Asian police officer you mentioned, Tan, he was not indicted. He was accused of over 18 different times of being using excessive force with the police force, to the point of he was actually being sued by a member of the public. And it was actually going to go to the court with the state. And the police actually decided they were going to pay that person off, so they didn't have to take it to court. So the Asian guy that was there, that was standing there watching, actually probably did more police brutality overall than what Derek Chauvin actually did. So is that white supremacy and racism, or should we just say about
it? Here's the thing. It's kind of like drunk driving, you know. If you get caught drunk driving, you get a slap on the wrist. But if you kill someone when you're drunk driving,
right?
They throw the book at you.
Yeah,
you just can't stop. You just can't say things like, "Oh, he slapped someone," or blah blah blah. He did it 18 times, but this time someone died. That's a big difference.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. Not for ideology purposes. Obviously, the Asian guy is not a white supremacist, but I think context matters. That Asian guy, yeah, he got into a lot of trouble, but that's because it isn't really police procedure to stab people with chopsticks during arrest. All right.
I mean, my point wasn't really to compare the two, as in one obviously committed murder, third degree, if you want to go down that road. But
we don't know that yet. He's not convicted yet.
No, agreed. But I'm pretty sure that we can agree that his actions either directly or indirectly led to him dying. So
yes, I think it's definitely a good thing that they're trying it in court.
It's pretty fucking apparent. Yeah.
Yeah, and it should be tried in court, and I'm very interested to see what the jury thinks.
But that's the problem with this situation. Like in the past, a police officer like kills a black guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then all this evidence kind of comes out that the black guy had a weapon, or the black guy had like robbed a liquor store and was like running from the cops, and they used a bit too much brute force, and that needs to be investigated, but nobody really, like, it kind of splits. You know, the black community is always angry when a black guy dies in police custody, but everybody else is kind of like, okay, let him protest or whatever. But this was just so blatant, like it was on camera. Everybody agreed that this was fucking wrong. You're like watching the video going, get off his fucking neck, you asshole.
Yeah.
Like, it was so like everybody agreed. And then the riots happened, and the looting started, and the burning and the arson and the black the kind of black angry mobs destroying entire neighborhoods. And it's like that became the face of George Floyd's murder, instead of what everybody kind of, what everybody already agreed on was a bad thing.
Yeah.
And
it changed the dynamic of the entire situation,
See, from being on the outside looking in, that obviously being limey, as Undoomed would call me, and I'm sure other people would call me a Brit bong as well. But coming across from where I am and looking at your guys, it looks like everything for the first day was going to be like I don't want to say the word revolution, because that will encapsulate the wrong type of people, I feel. But at the same time, it did seem that there was going to be some sort of change that was going to happen with the police. People were looking into it. Everybody was united, as you both say. And then it just come to the case of people burning down a Target, and then people going, well, why the hell, if you're after the idea of change, are you burning down a Target?
That doesn't really change anything with the legal case, though.
No,
those
but
are separate issues.
Yeah, we're looking at a situation where a legal case has become exasperated by politics and ideology. And it's happened before, don't get me wrong. I mean, we've had riots before. We've been through like civil rights. There's always been kind of this racial divide in America that doesn't seem to like go away. It almost went away. Me and Undoom talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
In the 80s and 90s, there was still racism, but newer generations that were being born and were young people watching movies and TV and going to school with like different, people of different races, we didn't think about race all that much. It started to kind of go away, like the Klan and Nazis and neo-Nazis and white supremacists, they were like the bad guys in movies. They were jokes. We laughed at them when we saw them get, curb stomped by the good guy, And then all of a sudden the internet happened.
Yeah.
Social media happened.
But was it the internet, or was it always a case of, not always, sorry, let me rephrase. Was it a case of I don't want to use the word indoctrination, but the teaching itself seemed to maybe have changed the way that people were getting their information? Maybe
no, but that is social media. The teachings in school didn't change.
No, the whole like Marxist ideology being taught in academia has been happening since the 60s.
Well, I'm not sure that would increase racism, though.
No, what exasperated all this and brought it kind of back into the political sphere was social media. That's what I'm saying. Academia didn't really change much. Like they've been teaching that crap since like the fucking hippies. But now with social media, every like person has a much louder voice and can share that loud voice with thousands of people, and then it makes it feel like it's more prevalent. So some guy on Twitter with like 6 followers can be like, I hate black people. But then a celebrity can retweet that person and be like, look at all the racism in America. And it makes it feel like it's fucking everywhere. It's down every dark alleyway.
You know what? I think is a real problem is actually the trending tab. If they just took away that thing, then these things would not really come to people's attention. You know what I mean?
I think the trending tab should just be strictly tits. Every day should just be like, which bouncing boobs is trending today? That's what I believe.
That is truth. Preach, brother. Preach.
I mean, I suppose I better take the feminist position on this one, but what about dick?
No,
well, I mean, you can choose when you log in. You want dick or tits,
Yeah, exactly. Let's be equal about this, okay? You could go to your notifications tab and turn on.
And don't forget, there's a lot of bisexual women who like tits.
Yeah, and there's a lot of gay men who love tits too. I've met at least 2 gay dudes who go out with like a group of girls and be like, "Those are nice."
I know, right? I mean, it's kind of natural. I mean, everyone sucked a titty when they were a kid, so I guess it's ingrained.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's just gay guys don't see them sexually. Not like it doesn't turn them on, but they're still going to be like, "Those are some nice titties, girl. You show them goods off."
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of things you can watch in a picture that doesn't turn you on. That's still beautiful. So I guess that works for everyone. So titties could unite the world.
I would love that to happen.
I joined the internet to spread that gospel, and nobody listens to me. I swear to God.
Damn it!
People always are like, Magog, what inspired you to start a YouTube channel? Was it politics? Was it a hatred for the radical left and radical feminism? No, I really wanted to get a huge following of girls with boobs.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Why do you think people build big bridges?
We should probably move back to politics.
I don't know how serious your streams usually are, but
yeah, I like what Dave Chappelle said in one of his specials a long time ago. His older special, one of his most famous specials. He was like, "Men buy nice cars because women like nice cars. If a man could fuck a girl in a cardboard box, he wouldn't buy a house."
True. 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 I don't think any man can actually argue. Well, any straight man can't argue that goddamn point.
Yeah, I mean,
he's a prophet.
We've also gotten to a point ideologically where the use of racism politically has actually created kind of a protective net around certain minority communities in a way. Like, don't get me wrong, there's still a lot wrong with like the black community, like black on black crime, gang violence, stuff like that. And that always kind of gets blamed on like the white man, the man, as a systemic thing. It's not individual white people, but there's this idea that our government is run by like white patriarchy, and they secretly kind of hold the black community down. But nobody can take responsibility for their own community, and for some reason in America, it's always somebody else's fault in America. And I think it's because we're spoiled. We have it so good here in America. Like it's,
I mean, I'd like to jump on your point. I suppose that's going to be a double entendre. Never mind, moving on. But yeah, I would like to jump on your point, which is, I do feel that with the left and with people in general, that they've got too sensitive on the idea of, oh, you're talking about black on black crime. That means what you're doing is that you're hyper focusing on the idea that because they're black, they're doing this. It's like, no, I want to talk about the crime that happens between black people and black people, the same as I would like to talk about what happens between white people and white people. That doesn't mean I'm focusing on their goddamn race. I'm talking about the crimes that are committed by them to them. Why is that hard to separate?
Because their ideology won't allow them to separate it. Everything is based on race, gender, and colonialistic fucking patriarchy.
But wasn't that the point of intersectionality, that you could subgroup everything, so you could separate everything and mark it by point? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but you know what happened when they realized that like 43% of all victims of domestic violence were men? Like, ooh, he better bury that real fast.
Yeah.
That's not going to come out,
Backpedal.
Yeah.
Retreat.
No, but they bury it because they have the power to do it.
Yeah. The biggest mistake anybody in the world, not even just in America, but in any kind of third world nation can make, is thinking that they are powerless. These like leftist ideologues and this kind of Marxist, communist, socialist, blending it all together, because there is a difference between, democratic socialists and communists. I personally don't think so, but they say there is a difference. But all these kind of radical ideologies, they do have power. They are a kind of a minority, but they have a really loud voice, and they run academia. They kind of run all the tech companies and the media companies. So they don't have like systemic government power because we have elections and power kind of changes hands, but they have this like social power, right? They have this power over the narrative, and that for some reason people kind of keep playing up that, oh, these radical ideologues on the left, they don't have any real power.
I'm going to throw both of you a curveball very, very quickly, because we're not going to stick on topic, but I thought we'd just play around anyway, so to speak. obviously, with people on the left and people on the right in general, generally we're against the idea of racial ethno-states. So people would come out of their way to say that they're against white ethno-states and so on and so forth. Why is it that quite a lot of people on the left are for black nationalists, and in actual point, black nationalists themselves actually want forms of segregation again, where you actually talk to them and they're like, no, let's segregate. Let's have your side, let's have my side. It's like, that's going backwards. Why the fuck would you want to go backwards?
Because it's a backwards ideology.
Okay. Well, fuck that up then.
Yeah, it relies solely on a very kind of archaic way of teaching and looking at the world. They're still reading books by like Karl Marx and fucking Lenin and the teachings of, Mao's China. It's the little red cookbook of communism that allows them to kind of see the world the way it used to be before massive technological advancements, medicine, food on everybody's table. There's still class separation, but there's still this kind of old world ideology that we were colonized, and so it's not our fault.
Right, but those days are gone. It's over.
Not to them.
No, I know that, but you know that's just the way it is, and it's the same thing for the white nationalists. Fuck off. It's over.
Mm.
Yeah, there's not going to be a Fourth Reich.
No.
See, don't get me wrong, I'm not jumping on the point that I think that there's going to be a Fourth Reich. I'm completely and utterly disavow, retreat. But
it's not going to happen. So you don't even have to worry about that, because they didn't have social media in Nazi Germany.
Oh God! Imagine if they had.
Yeah.
Did you see Hitler today? LOL. OMG, did you see that fucking uniform he had on? It looked so ridiculous.
I mean, the reason why I wanted to bring this up was because I find it interesting that with particular ideologies that you have, as you said, the backward looking aspect of these types of ideologies, that they always look back at what was. And because they tend to look back at what was, they don't see what's in front of them, as you quite rightly pointed out, the food that's on the table, the idea of being able to go to work, the opportunity of owning your own business if you work hard enough, so on and so forth. But because they're looking backwards all the time, they tend to, as you quite rightly said, they tend to force a backward look on things like today with one of the protests. We had one of the people that was able to put down the idea of a poorhouse, the idea of looking after the homeless and so on and so forth. Because he traded in slaves back when it was, profitable to do that, he had just been pulled down and thrown into the Bristol River, so to speak, the statue, obviously. And I don't see how that is going to change how they are actually trying to put forward that they want to change the systemic racism that they believe is there, that they want to try and change the idea of systemic oppression that comes from the institutions that are run by government and so on and so forth, but yet they want more government control.
Yeah, it's a hypocritical ideology.
I don't know if have you watched the latest Bill Maher shows? Like
I've seen clips.
I mean, I think it was was it Fridays or Saturdays? I can't remember when his show was on, but it was the last one, so it's probably like yesterday or the day before. He was talking about he's buying guns, and all the liberals he knows are buying guns.
Yep.
Okay, interesting. So there is obviously some hypocrisy going on that side. But it's just
I suppose what you're trying to say, because
I lost my train of thought there, but go ahead.
I mean, more whiskey.
Yeah.
I suppose if I could, I would have thought that you were going down the line of all of these people that were against the Second Amendment beforehand are now for the Second Amendment because they need to defend themselves against the people that don't want you to have the Second Amendment. And that's the point of hypocriticalness, as in pointing out the fact of you do need to sort yourself out against the tyrannical government, in this instance, the people.
Yeah, I mean it always there's always all these different reasons, either it's like, oh, it's like we got to get rid of the guns, the police shouldn't have any guns, blah blah blah, and then this thing with Floyd happens and everyone's out there protesting the cops, and Bill Maher is buying guns because he's like, I'm not going to let some guy break into my house and vandalize it. And so it's nothing makes any sense of what is your ideology? When is it okay to defend your home? I don't get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hey, you guys remember not that long ago? Do you guys remember like the whole only police should have guns hashtag, like during the during back when we had multiple candidates, before Joe Biden was chosen as the savior. There was like Pete Buttigieg come out and be like, there's no reason for you to have guns. Like, if I get elected, I'm taking your AR-15. I'm coming for it. Like,
wait, wasn't that like the other Texan guy?
Yeah,
no, that was Buttigieg.
Buttigieg too. Like he got on that.
You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, there was that one. Yeah, the mayor.
What's he called?
I can't
I can't remember either.
He's
They
not
go away so fast.
Yeah, they go away so fast. But I remember that discussion on the internet where it was like, we have cops. There's no reason for you to have a gun. Only cops should have a gun. Well, that changed pretty fucking quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because now the cops are the target of these protests and riots and stuff, right? Like they're seeing this kind of in their mind.
And Bill Maher had like a 5-minute segment when he talked about the virtues of gun ownership and the virtues of the Second Amendment and shit. Like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What's going on?
It's different when it's different when you become the target of the rage that you've created. Like,
yeah,
it's kind of funny to see these kind of leftist ideologues going, yeah, burn it all down, destroy the government, capitalism, patriarchy is evil. And then it's like, oh shit, the rioters are in my neighborhood. Uh-oh. Oh no. What have I done? Oh.
Do you think that the actual let's say the liberal elite, the news people in general, Hollywood, if you will, do you think that they're actually looking at what's going on and actually thinking that they've had some sort of contributing factor to?
No? Very few of them. I still think that I still really believe that celebrities are in their own like echo chamber. And even with the COVID-19 and them not being able to do stuff, and they've been like locked in their home, they're so oblivious to how regular people live that it would literally take actual rioters to show.
I'm not actually 100% sure about Bill Maher, though.
I'm not saying all of them.
No, I'm just curious about him because sometimes he can just fall on this side, or sometimes he can just fall on the other side. He's really unpredictable, and he can just go on the complete opposite end of all the other guys, and he gets canceled every fucking month, Yeah. And obviously getting canceled doesn't mean anything, but they try. And so I don't know about him. He might not be completely genuine. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think he's trying to maintain a presence.
Either he is like really into what he's saying, but he's doubting himself, or he's just in it for the money. I don't know.
Do you think he's pleasing the audience then? He's going after what he thinks the general populace is thinking and trying to pander to those types of ideologies then?
That would be obviously what most people in entertainment would do, but yeah, it could be that, or it could be just that he's doubting. He seems like a guy who has principles more than the average pundit.
No, I agree.
I still have some respect for Bill Maher.
From watching when he was talking about religion and things like that, when he was talking about Islam and that type of situation, when he had Sam Harris on. Now, don't get me wrong, everybody has their own opinion about Sam Harris. But when he was talking about it, he was taking the position, how can you call these types of things out and be for what you are when Islam is, as Sam Harris would be quoted as, the motherlode of bad ideas. And yet he took that type of principled position, knowing that most of the people that are around him would go against him for it. And he took that position morally because he knew it was reprehensible. There is no way of defending that section of Islam.
Right.
Right. I think Bill Maher is the devil's advocate in a suit. Like he really does.
Yeah. Well, he is that. That's for sure. But is he that because it makes him money, or is he that because he really believes in doing that? I don't know.
It's money.
Okay.
I second.
I'm sorry. I truly do believe that. I mean,
I don't think it actually makes him more money. I think it would be more popular if he just went all in with everything and just, abandoned his devil's advocate shit.
Maybe. Who knows? But I do know this, that he has said some stuff that I actually agree with, even though I disagree with him like 85% of the time. There's some stuff.
Yeah. Me too, for sure.
And
he's not completely unreasonable.
I think it's also his age. Like, he's not part of this kind of young liberal college student socialist crowd. He is kind of an older school liberal who, in his mind, the liberal Democrats were the ones that fought against, obscenity laws, because like comedians would get arrested off the stage in the middle of their sets for saying bad words.
Oh, and yeah.
They fought
Lenny Bruce and shit.
Yeah, Lenny Bruce and shit. His kind of version of liberals fought for actual freedom of speech, actual, like, the ability to say what you want in a song, fought against government censorship. And
yes.
He kind of, I feel like sometimes he kind of wants those days to come back.
Now we're back again with that shit.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I this was weeks or months ago, but I saw statistics from Spotify how many songs they've removed for improper lyrics, and it was just staggering.
Yeah, no, we've had. I don't know if you know of a comedian called Keith Lemon. He did a particular show called Bo Selector, where he was doing the funny mask things with black people, white people, a whole section of people, and just taking the piss out of them. He's now been forced to apologize for a show that happened almost 20 years ago because people have been offended by it now.
20 years ago?
I believe Bo Selector was in the 90s, I believe.
90s? That's 30 years. Holy fuck.
I think a lot of that stuff wouldn't happen if we didn't suddenly live in a world where kowtowing to the lowest common denominator was like the hip, cool thing to do. I
just don't understand, this whole thing with, why don't you just fucking not listen to it then? Isn't that the whole point of having all these gazillion songs and things and videos to listen to or watch? Isn't that the point? You don't have to watch the shit you don't like. That's what when we were young and there were just TV, that's what we had to do. We had to watch the shit we didn't like because there was nothing else. But now you can watch whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
No.
What's the problem?
Speaking about the idea of censorship, and before I actually say this, I'd like to say that I don't agree with the ideology that I'm going to try and defend very shortly, but I have to. What do you think about the idea of Donald Trump deciding that Antifa is a terrorist organization? Agree, disagree, censorship, no censorship?
I think that's a bad move.
Personally, it's difficult. I'm kind of on the fence personally because on one hand, I love the idea of these Antifa black bloc kind of like white middle class college students getting their faces smashed in. I kind of like the idea of seeing that, but at the same time, are they really terrorists?
Yeah, we got to be careful with that word because that's when people start justifying drone strikes and
Right. if it could lead to my freedoms one day being supplanted, I'm not for it. And if
people who have been accused of being a terrorist have been drone strike to death,
sure,
and they have been American citizens.
Sure. Here's a quick defense. Would you call the people that did the Boston bombings, Boston bombings ages ago? Would you call them terrorists?
Sure,
because most of them were Americans, or is it the
yeah? But they actually blew up a lot of people.
It's a distinction between terrorism and domestic terrorism.
I agree with you there, but would you classify Antifa then as domestic terrorists, which should still undercover?
I'm not aware of them having blown shit up, though.
No, but I suppose what I'm trying to get at is the pure definition of terrorism. Yes, I am going to be that guy. Is trying to enact a political change during by enacting points of fear or the threat of fear.
Yeah, but if you're trying to scare someone on Twitter, are you a terrorist? Like you have to blow something up to be a terrorist. It's just simple as that.
What about burning down a target and then saying that we're going to do it to other people?
Sorry?
Don't get me wrong, hyper focus, but just saying.
I'm just saying that's kind of the definition. If you're going to try to scare someone, if you're standing around and trying to intimidate someone, or if you're threatening to do something on Twitter, I'm not going to call you a terrorist. You have to blow something up. I will call that a crime, though. Yeah, it's a crime, obviously. Threatening people. We have a justice system to take care of that. That's no problem. As Americans, we just have to be careful with the word terrorist, because then all sorts of shit starts happening, and we start invading countries, and
Sure, but go on.
As Americans, we have to be careful about. We have to be careful about stuff like this because we have a First Amendment.
That I agree with.
If you get on Twitter and threaten somebody's life, that is a crime. That's not free speech, right? However, if you get on Twitter and go, fuck the government, I think that we should, I think that one day we're due for a revolution. That's not really a threat, but it is scary kind of rhetoric, right? But that is still protected under free speech. So we have to be careful.
I mean, what I'm trying to get at before we go down any other avenue is I'm not trying to say that the people that are on Twitter are the terrorists, as in the organizations that call themselves Antifa that are on Twitter are the terrorists. I'm saying that if you're going around threatening people in protests with knives and things like that, surely that's a classification of terrorism. If you're going around and using forms of protest to be able to burn shit down and saying that if you don't do anything to change this, then we're going to burn more shit down, isn't that the definition of terrorism? The active point of going out and doing stuff. Not the people on Twitter, but the actual point of going out. Because if it's a characteristic of people blowing stuff up or even shooting people, then you won't be able to classify a lot of things of terrorism.
Right, but that's the definition, right? Otherwise, it's just a crime.
No, you're mistaken, dude. Terrorism, it depends on the ideology of the person. If you're a looter, right, and you sack a target and you steal a bunch of shit and then burn that target down, but you're doing it so that you can get away with a TV and some money and to just take advantage of the chaos.
Yeah, but you're misunderstanding me. No, you're misunderstanding me because I don't really know of any Antifa bombings. That's what I'm saying.
A lot of this stuff that's happening during these riots has been claimed by Antifa, whether or not they were the ones that did it or not, or whether they are looters. I don't know. You're thinking a little too focused on kind of the definition of terrorism since 9/11, which is here's this crazy ideology of this entire group of people over here in another country.
But you're still misunderstanding me. What is the problem with our justice system, you think? Why can't we have laws for this? If someone burned down a building, we have laws for that.
No, I agree.
Why do we have to consider their motives? It's not always helpful.
No, it's not. I agree. But at the same time, labeling a particular group as a terrorist organization allows the feds to get involved instead of police. So, like, let's say you have like a crazy Klansman. Let's switch the ideologies, right? You get like a crazy Klansman bombs a black church, right? Now, if the Klan as an organization was not labeled a terrorist group, then the investigation would be up to like local police. And what if the local police are corrupt? Or what if the local police don't have enough funding or personnel to solve that crime and catch that individual? However, because he was a member of the Klan and he claimed it for a particular ideology, it allows the feds to get involved, and a much bigger entity can take over the investigation and go after the money that's funding the group. They can go after the members, depending on, across state lines.
Right.
So there is to play devil's advocate, there is a positive to labeling a certain group a terrorist organization.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
It allows the FBI to more deeply investigate the group instead of it just being a bunch of local hoodlums that we need to kind of send the cops out to try to disperse. Now we can go after their money. We can go after their funding. We can find out who's funding them. We can find out who's organizing these cells in different states.
Right.
So there is a positive to that, but we also have to be very careful. Being a Marxist Leninist or a communist socialist that wants to bring down the patriarchal capitalist society isn't necessarily terrorism.
No, that's just every teenager.
Yeah, that's just angsty anarchists who want to feel like they're doing something important and being revolutionary against a power they see in their eyes as a fascist dictatorship. But that still falls under free speech. Yeah. But the moment you cross the line into beating people in the street with rocks, and then if it's a single incident, we go, okay, that person that beat that person in the street with a rock is a criminal. They did something that was deemed a crime. However, when we start seeing it in different cities, and not just cities in America, but across the world, we see it in London, we see it in Berlin, we see it in Paris, and we see these people dressed in the black bloc thing, and they have printouts, and mysterious pallets of rocks and bricks show up every time there's a planned protest of these people. Every time they do shit on a kind of global scale in different places, we're starting to see an organization of it. And an organization can be deemed a terrorist group when it's that active in disturbing law and order and scaring people into submission. That's the definition of terrorism, is the use of violence to push a political or ideological agenda, like a religious agenda. And so it's not necessarily about like somebody wearing a bomb vest. It's not necessarily about somebody doing a hijacking to airplanes. It's about the use of violence to frighten people into complacency of that ideology.
Yeah, but it is sort of a little bit about using disproportionate amount of violence.
No, it's terrorism specifically is about targeting civilians.
Yeah.
Yes.
A amount of terror.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a knife or a bomb. It's not about disproportion. It's about civilian targets.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. It's just, I'm very uncomfortable with the term terrorist when it comes to what kind of power that gives to the government.
I agree. I totally agree. I was playing devil's advocate to try to break down why possibly this organization called Antifa. A lot of people are like, it's not organized. No, it is.
Well, I totally get your kind of, your movie guy sense there of, it'd be really nice if those guys got drone striked, but you got to think a step further, and next time it's going to be you.
No,
I completely agree. I mean, the reason why I brought it up wasn't because that as I said at the beginning, I don't want to defend the ideology and I don't want to target them as terrorists, but by definitional, the organization is. But at the same time, I'm with you guys. I don't want them to be labeled a terrorist group, because once it's been labeled as a terrorist group, anybody that claims that they're Antifa is then subsequently at the beck and call of the government and can be royally fucked by it. And
I
agree with that when it's
also,
on Twitter or anything else like that.
and also, I think it sort of radicalizes them as well. Then they are going to have suicide vests next time.
Yeah,
I agree with you on that one.
Sorry?
we start to see, we'll start to see a justification within their own ideology that if the government's going to come after us this hard, we must be doing something right.
Right. Then we have to step up our game as well.
Right.
Yeah,
And
I mean, but that's the same thing as what people were saying about, you know, the punch the Nazi aspect of things. And yeah, I'm using the juxtaposition on it. But when everybody was talking about the punch the Nazi things, it was a case of because they were being punched and they were being targeted, a lot of people had the point of emphasis of trying to show some sign of empathy towards them. And that was, I think, one of the major reasons why they started to grow in popularity, because of people just doing stuff like that. More people looked into it and go, oh, it's not that bad. You know, the surface level shit, not the actual shit, but the surface level stuff, you know, immigration and whatnot.
Right. If you say that you can just go after a group of people just because what they are, then obviously they're going to gain a lot of empathy.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's why I brought up what I said. That's why I was just kind of playing the devil's advocate. Yes, on one hand, punch the Nazi is a perfect example. On one hand, punching a Nazi, like an actual Nazi in the face, a guy with a swastika tattooed to his forehead, is pretty gratifying. Like, I kind of don't mind that at all, like seeing a fucking Nazi asshole getting punched in the face. But then on the other hand, the reason why I don't like that, you know, I'm trying to break this down from like the human position versus like
it's just a free speech position, basically.
Right. Like, it's like, on one hand, yes, everybody likes to see a Nazi get his comeuppance. But on the other hand, what happens if I get labeled a Nazi and I'm not?
Yeah, but, you know, exactly. And obviously, what's the next label?
So we can't sit there and justify the violence towards, like, a Nazis when everybody is a Nazi.
Right, because it doesn't serve anyone. If of course, you have, first of all, if you do that, then Nazis are going to get sympathy.
Right.
Yeah.
And secondly, it's going to get more people into it. And thirdly, or tertiary, whatever it's called, you're going to have people joining that group. It's a perfect recruiting tool.
Yeah. But at the same time, we can't also expect our government to bend the knee every fucking time some fucking Antifa guy goes, this needs to change.
No.
Yeah. We can't do that. We can't let the very small minority rule over us. Over the majority. That's
no. Of course not. But that's what I'm saying. We have the rule of law, so it either way they're going to get punished, and we have some pretty fucking stiff punishments. So you know.
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at is I don't know about labeling them a terrorist group, but maybe we should at least see them as an organization dangerous enough to warrant a bigger federal investigation.
I mean, why wouldn't they fall over under RICO?
They could. I think instead of labeling, that's a good idea, Undo. Instead of labeling them a terrorist organization, because that can get dangerous. Because we got Antifa, we got people who claim to be Antifa that aren't really like active members. They're just online being shitlords, right? And I don't want to see them people labeled a terrorist and go to fucking Gitmo, right? Like they're just shitbags, but they don't deserve Gitmo.
Yeah.
However, I think instead of terrorism, we should label Antifa organized crime.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I agree.
That's what it should be, because we need to find out who's funding these small organizational cells that are all around the country. Like, yeah, there's not a single leader. There's no Bin Laden. There's no fucking. There's no single leader.
Then you have all the power you need, and except there's no risk of drone strikes and shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's no Patriot Acts and shit.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, like, yes, I do kind of disagree with Trump labeling them a terrorist organization, even though I was kind of getting what he wants to do. He's labeling them that so that federal powers can get involved in investigations. The FBI can go after them. But we need that. But it doesn't have to be under the label of terrorism. It could be organized crime, because I really do believe they are getting funding from people. And those people need to be punished for funding these organizations. Like, there are celebrities out there that are like, I just donated $500,000 to this fund to, to help Antifa out. Well, you just funded organized crime. Fuck you. You know?
No, completely not agree. I've got to read the super chat before it disappears. It's from the Dark Conservatarian for $5. Hello, CSG. Hello, Magog. Big fan. Has the season of Side Quest ended? Because I didn't see an episode live last Friday.
No, it hasn't ended. I sent out a message on the live stream channel. I had a technical difficulties. My power supply blew up.
Wasn't that from the thunderstorm or the storm?
No, there was no storm. It's old, and I guess it just finally had enough. Because I woke up Friday morning and my computer would not. My computer was shut off for one, and that's weird because I never shut off my computer. It's always on. But it wouldn't turn on. And I couldn't find a power supply. I went to Best Buy. I went to a couple different places, and they were fucking picked clean. So I went to a buddy's house, and luckily, a friend of mine has all kinds of fucking computer parts lying around because he's a computer geek. And he had a 650 watt, and it's a little lower than I like for my computer, but it works for now. And I've ordered a better one on the internet. So I had to cancel Friday's show because everything that I use to run SideQuest is on my main computer. I can't run SideQuest on my laptop. It's just not strong enough to run OBS with all the stuff. So no, we're not at our mid-season break yet. It just was I had to cancel Friday. That's it. But we should we'll be doing a show tomorrow night. So
sure. Thank you very much for that. I suppose my next question then to both of you on that one is, even though that we disagree that it's been labeled a terrorist group, what do you think of people like Biden's staff going out of their way to, and obviously Hollywood in general, to fund Antifa to get them out of prison? Well, I say prison, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Bad political move, in my opinion. Most Americans, whether it's labeled a terrorist group or not, most Americans don't like groups like Antifa. They don't like the Klan. They don't like neo-Nazis. Most average Americans that are just kind of watching cable news and are voting, right? Biden and these celebrities are really, there's something terribly wrong with people, especially politicians and celebrities, kind of propping up the fucking lowest of the low majority of their side. You know? It's like, oh, I better get up on stage and support Antifa or I'm going to lose votes. Yeah, but how many votes are you going to lose? Like, it's like 1% of your party, right?
Right. That's kind of like the difference between Twitter and actual votes.
Yeah. Yes. So I think they should be investigated if they're going to help criminals. But bailing people out for looting isn't necessarily a crime. Not the act of bailing them out, because they're still going to have a trial, right? Bailing them out just gets them out of jail. But they're still going to have to fucking report, to court because they've been arrested. They've been charged with a crime.
Sure, but the optics is really bad, though, isn't it? Especially for politicians.
Fucking terrible, yeah. It's really bad optics. You're playing to the lowest common denominator of your side of your ideology because you feel like if you don't do it, they're going to come after you. This is why I truly believe you should never apologize for like jokes 20 years ago and shit like that. Like, fuck these people.
Right.
Let them get angry. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
That's the real way to fight these fucking people. These black bloc idiots want to fucking get out in the streets with masks on and throw bricks and rocks and spit on cops and all this and that to try to cause. It's what they're doing. The reason they don't go heavier into violence, the reason they're not blowing up buildings, the reason they're not shooting people is because they're the victims. They see themselves as the revolutionary victims. So they're doing just enough violence to try to get like the cops to react and hit them, so that it can get on tape, and then they can get on social media and be like, look what happened to me when I was at this peaceful protest. These cops hit me with a stick. But you never see before the cop hit him with a stick, he threw a fucking brick at them. Like, you never see that part, right? They want victimhood so that they can play up their ideology. We need to take that power from them by not propping them up, not supporting them, not giving them money. These celebrities need to get the fuck out of politics, and politicians need to stop kowtowing to the lowest common denominator of their side of politics.
No, I completely agree with all of those sentiments. I suppose what I would ask both of you again after that is, obviously we've kind of agreed that it's bad optics, but it shouldn't really be, I would say, held accountable, but everybody knows what I mean by that. It will be held accountable because obviously voting and whatnot. How would you try and go about now sorting what they want? Should we, I say we because I'm obviously American, but should you guys go down and actually start having a conversation with these types of people and try and work out what's on the table? Or have they pushed it too far now where it's a case of, no, we just need to put you down, so to speak, and we'll sort things out ourselves? Or is there a conversation to be had, and is that a reward for them?
No, you can't. We're beyond a conversation with those particular types of people, the radicals. You know, you go down on the street with a group of 100 people all dressed in black with black masks on, and they have Molotov cocktails and baseball bats. You can't really walk up to people like that and go, "Let's talk."
Right, and that's not a political conversation. You know,
right.
You want to change something, run for office. This is not the way.
Right. So the best thing to do is when you see people like that, shoot them. No.
Proper conservative there.
Get the minigun.
No, I want a minigun.
It's kind of a weird. It's kind of a rock and a hard place, isn't it? Because if we listen to them and give them what they want, they'll just demand more until fundamentally our entire idea of freedom and liberty for the individual is gone. Because these people are groupthink people, right? To them, it's all about the greater good of the masses. But as you know, it's all about the land and the people. As long as it's like their land and their people. Right.
Yeah. Right.
So you give them what they want. You start passing laws that implement their idea of socialist utopia, and
they're collectivists.
Right. And you end up getting a really bad country. But at the same time, if you go too violently against them, they use that as more victim points, and then they grow because they gain sympathizers. So it's a really difficult kind of situation to deal with, because you can't just go in swinging a sword, but at the same time, you can't give these people what they want. So the best thing to do is to take their money away. What's funding them? What's funding their organization? Who's the ones paying the money to drop pallets of bricks and fund, these protests? Like, these people don't have jobs. Like, they're getting paid somehow. They're getting donations. They're getting bailed out of jail. There are bigger players on the board right now, and we need to start investigating them people. You need to go after the fucking money.
No, I agree with that. As soon as you want to take down any organization, always follow the money. I suppose I should rephrase the question then, because I would have thought that no matter what happens with the protests and what happens with the actual rioters and so on and so forth, there is going to be a conversation about the idea of reforming police in some aspects. Some people are going to push for more regulations, and some people are going to push for more armaments simply because of what's happened. The point that I was trying to get to is, that conversation is going to happen regardless now because it just unfortunately is. Do you think that the people that have caused all of the problems are going to be the ones that claim that that's the reason why that the conversation is actually happening and forget about who they actually decided they were going to protest in support of, as in George Floyd?
I don't understand the question.
Yeah,
No, that's fine. That's fine.
I don't want to say that I toned out while you were talking in your limey accent.
I appreciate you trying to be nice. I appreciate that. I suppose then I should quickly rephrase. My point was that the conversation about what's going to happen in the future is going to happen regardless. And the people that have been doing the riots are going to claim that the reason why that conversation is happening is because of them. Now, do we give them the credit for that? I know we've already said no, but they are going to take the credit for it anyway. And how do we, I suppose, change that aspect or that ideological dogma that's going to happen?
I'm not sure it's about credit. It's just we've seen the value of just having a body cam. You know, the police officers that don't have that are going to have to put that shit on. It's as simple as that, and we can see the value of it, and of course, we know that there are always going to be assholes, and a body cam is a really good insurance against that. So, that's a really good step as far as I'm concerned.
I'm all for reform, and I've always been an advocate for body cams because it doesn't just protect you as a citizen when you are dealing with a police situation, but it also protects the cops, right?
Yeah.
It protects everybody involved, and but
as long as you're the good guy.
But the system also has to work too. Like the people looking at the tapes need to be objective. They can't side with their cop buddies, right?
No, that has to be public, I guess.
Right, and that's why the Freedom of Information Act is actually kind of powerful. Because we can get a hold of that body cam footage ourselves, and everything's kind of made public, so you shine a light on it. So even if some shady cop is like trying to look out for his buddy, and if they were burying these tapes and not even pursuing any kind of investigation when police brutality happens, that'd be one thing. But given that these body cam footages can be released unedited to the public for us to make our own decisions and to kind of keep an eye on them, we are the watchers of the watchmen, essentially.
Don't underestimate 4chan.
Right. But at the same time, just because I'm an advocate for all that stuff doesn't also mean that I don't believe that there should be some sort of reform within law enforcement agencies of our country, because this has happened way too often to be just I'm not saying the majority of cops are bad people, but there's got to be something we can do to kind of reform some things and build the trust back up, right?
Sure.
I'm open to those ideas as long as
I think it's
come from a place of
they probably have to figure out better training.
I think that's a big one. Our cops are not paid enough. People do not become cops for the paycheck. Trust me on this one. Most people who become cops, they want to help their communities. They want to serve the public. They want to stop criminals from doing criminal shit, right? They don't do it for the money. If you've seen a cop's paycheck, you'd know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. But their training is shorter than military training. Like police academy is fucking short, man. It's like 6 weeks, at least where I'm at. I don't know if it's different in other states, but the police academy here in Arkansas is like 6 weeks. My basic training was 9 weeks. And I had the shortest basic training. Like Air Force has the shortest basic training. The Army and shit, their basic training is like fucking 13, 14 weeks or some shit like that. Like police get less training than us, and they deal with criminals every day and drug dealers and gangbangers shooting at them. Like they need more training, not just on the job training. Because once you get out of police academy, you get put in the car with somebody who's, you're still a noob, right? You have to learn on the job as well, but there's got to be a little bit something more. And I don't mean like sensitivity training, but like de-escalation. That'd be a good, like spend an extra week on that shit. How about that? Like how to de-escalate a situation. so it doesn't turn violent. Things like that. I'm okay with implementing stuff like that. Truly, I am. And I'm also okay with like paying our police a little more. Make it to where they don't have to fall towards corruption in order to make ends meet. Like we always see these stories of corrupt cops like stealing evidence or yanking some money from some drug dealer's wallet while he's arresting him and shit. It's because these fucking cops are underpaid and they're just trying to make fucking ends meet. I'm not sympathizing with that criminal act. I'm just saying we'd have less corruption if cops had more to lose if they go corrupt, right? People don't often go corrupt if their life is going good. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, to minimize corruption and to try to get some like better people, education is important, training is important, and I think I'm not saying they should be millionaires. I don't think cops should be millionaires because why would you be a cop if you're a millionaire?
Right. I'm just curious as to what kind of training that guy received when he stomped on that guy for 9 minutes. Like, did it not occur to you that you could just tase him or something? I'm very, very curious.
Well, that was him. That was him being a damn power hungry asshole.
Yeah. So, I mean,
cops are trained to put their knee on the back of the suspect's neck if they're resisting arrest, if they're not subdued. When I did my practice arrest, when I did security forces in the Air Force, they put me on my ass and they fucking put their knee right in the back of my fucking neck. But once I was in handcuffs and I was subdued, they got off of me. Right. Now I was just pretend perp, like I had a rubber knife, and we were training. I volunteered to help the security forces train with arrests, and we had to act like it was real in order for them to get good training. And so they fucking hurt me, but then I got to be the cop and I got to hurt them. So it was awesome.
Right. But I mean, someone at some point, obviously, or if he has half a brain, he must have understood that, okay, I got to get off this guy before he dies.
Yeah, but he was being a power-hungry asshole.
Right.
Yeah.
But that must be ingrained in their psyche, when they're being trained, like, holy shit, if the guy dies, you're going down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But in that moment, he was like the alpha dog of that group. But
it's not a moment. 10 minutes is not a moment. You have time to think in 10 minutes.
True.
Yeah. You have time to evaluate and reevaluate.
If someone is in a shootout, I can understand. Okay, it was a split-second decision here. I didn't know. It looked like a gun. Okay, it was a cell phone. I didn't know. Okay, fine. But when it's like 10 minutes,
yes, you are right. But you're also coming from the assumption, Undoomed, that all cops are as smart as you and me. Like, I know some cops and they're smart and they're on their way up the ladder. They're going to be detectives one day. But I also know some cops that are like jarhead Marines that got out of the military and became cops, and they're just kind of like I don't know. I don't want to be mean and say cavemen.
No, but that's fine, and I'm sure those guys can probably still provide a good service. It's just that it has to be ingrained in their mind, like, you're responsible, dude. Like, you have to be responsible for this guy's life. If you make an arrest and he turns up dead, you're fucked. Now it's your life.
Yes,
it's something that has to be drilled into their head, because if they are well aware of that, I'm sure they could still be good guys, but they have to be fucking well aware of that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, Scott actually makes a really good point in the chat, which I'll quickly put up so everybody can see.
Mm-hmm.
He says, let's be honest here. No way is the guy getting a fair trial. And obviously he's talking about Derek Chauvin. I mean, don't get me wrong. We can all agree that he did something absolutely heinous. But under the guise of being innocent until proven guilty, is that really something that's going to be able to happen over the course of his trial?
Well, he's not accused of first-degree murder, so...
Yeah, but because of the violence, they got it bumped up to second degree, and
they got that now. Okay.
Yeah, and so I mean, we are seeing a bit of a kangaroo court that's run by public opinion instead of an actual fair trial.
Hmm.
I will give it to I will give it to Hammered Spud. That is a valid point.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen that happen before, where like the jury is definitely not a sympathetic jury, things like that. And the judge, let's say it doesn't go to a jury. Let's say they decide to hold a trial, where the judge will pass judgment instead of a jury.
Yeah, bench trial.
Yeah, a bench trial. The judge is going to be afraid if I'm forced to let this guy off, they're going to come for me.
Yeah,
right.
So that's going to create bias, right? Like there's a fear here, and that's why I don't agree with these people that get on Twitter. Some of them I know and actually am close friends with, which disappoints me. But I've seen tweets where it's like, see, like violence does solve things. He's finally going down, and they listened to us because we were violent. And it was like, yeah, but look what else happened. Like David Dorn died because of this violence. Like a black 77-year-old ex-police chief was shot by looters because of this violence.
Yeah.
A bunch of other people. I've seen a list of like fucking 21 people have died across the country because of these riots and these lootings and it's like, yay, you got the bad guy who's already in jail and will be punished. You got a better charge against him because of the protests and the violence. But also look what else happened.
You destroyed your own communities and killed some of your own people.
Destroyed your own communities, burned down your own places where people in your community work, and you fucking killed people and hurt people. Like 21 people have died, probably more now because that was like an old statistic.
Yeah.
But how many people have died and not just deaths? How many people have been hospitalized? How many people have been beaten in the streets? How many people have been fucking hurt?
I don't know how many. I haven't
probably hundreds.
I've not looked at any news for a couple of days, so I have no idea.
Plus, how can we punish the guy who single-handedly ended the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, that's one of the.
That was. I feel bad for that joke. Oh,
no, I'm actually with you on that one. I'm actually completely unitedly with you on that one because before all of that, we had protests in our country, we had protests in your country, which is all a case of they're allowed to do what they want, sort of thing, that were ridiculed. Now, don't get me wrong, there are different aspects and there are different reasoning and rationales for the protests, but the guys and the should we say the spirit of the protest is the same sort of instance. They feel that they see an injustice and they want the injustice sorted out.
Well, protest is a right. So
no, I agree.
If you're not destroying shit, protest away. That's not a problem. It's obviously when they start destroying shit when the problem starts.
No, I completely not agree. My point was going to be along the lines, or question was going to be along the lines of, if it was so bad and the left completely and utterly ridiculed them for protesting, as in the people protesting to be able to walk around and do whatever, why is it now that everything's okay? Because the principle of protesting the injustice, again, different injustice, and I completely understand the differences in it, but it's still the same premise. Why is one okay and one's not?
Color of skin.
Racist.
Yep. But I mean, that's the difference, isn't it? It's kind of like when me and Undoomed were talking about this idea that we now live in a military police state because Trump threatened to send in the National Guard if the governors did nothing. Well, if you break it down, think about it. When lawlessness takes over a city and there is too much for the local police to handle, the governor has the right to call in the National Guard to help with police action. That is absolutely a right of a governor. If a governor refuses to do that, the president can take over, put the National Guard under temporary federal control, and order them in regardless of the governor. However, the end result is the same. If the governor calls in the National Guard, you get the National Guard helping with the riots. If the president calls in the National Guard, you get the National Guard coming in to help with the riots. The end is the same, but the difference is who's ordering it. Now, if a governor orders in the National Guard and the governor happens to be a Democrat, okay, fine. He might catch a little shit because people just don't like the look of army men running around the streets. But for the most part, politically and socially, that governor did the right thing in most people's eyes.
Yeah.
If Trump does it, it's fucking super Hitler has come to take over our streets and send in the tanks, and
Right.
it becomes a completely different thing. And it's the same with skin color. If a white cop kills a white man, nobody gives a shit. If a black cop kills a white man, nobody gives a shit. If a white cop kills a black man, suddenly it's about race.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the kind of partisanship that I really hate.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm completely not with you on both of those, surprisingly. I just find it interesting that now nobody's really talking about the pandemic. And I don't know what it was like for you guys as well. I know that you definitely participated in D-Day, in landings and all that type of stuff. We haven't had, our media hasn't had any sort of coverage, not proper coverage, of any sort of form of remembrance of that. But we've all been talking about Black Lives Matter, and we've been talking about the protests. The reason why I'm so annoyed about that isn't because of the D-Day landings or anything else like that. It's because that you weren't allowed to go and socialize doing that bit, but you're allowed to go thousands upon thousands of people to protest. Like, I know it's the same thing probably for over your side, but how hypocritical is that? That you can't do this because we can control you because you're doing this because it's something to do with the country. But we can't control Black Lives Matter, so they're allowed to do this, and we'll give them under the carpet, type of sanctions to be able to go ahead. Doesn't that seem hypocritical from both sides of the fund, I suppose?
Well, it is, but it is what it is.
Yeah, the short answer to your question is yes. But,
yeah, it is, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I suppose what my point was, I don't want to try and push you guys onto it. It's more of a statement in my own head because I'm just trying to get through it myself and formalize it.
Well,
I know the reasons why. I know the reasons why. It's literally for what I said, that you can control one side and people understand the reasons why you're not allowed to go and do that. But if you force the protesters to stop, then politically and optically, then it makes you look like that you're trying to stop them. You're not in support of Black Lives Matter and everything else like that. I understand why, but surely the pandemic, if it was as bad as it is, or supposedly is, then why would it matter? You're supposed to be looking after people's lives, are you not?
Right.
That question has so many layers that it's scary.
Well, a prime example of that, to kind of simplify it, a prime example of that is your country. In England, it's so weird that these protests are happening and everybody's like, we stand with you, BLM, Black Lives Matter, blah, blah, blah. But just 2 weeks ago, you could be arrested for going outside.
Yeah,
right.
Like you're not allowed by your law.
But here's the thing, and I know, but British people don't know this, but the British government is actually Nazis. And so they're hoping that all British black people go out and protest and die.
That is actually a theory that I've actually heard before, surprisingly.
Goddamn meta onion. So many layers to that onion.
Well, yeah, that's what I said. Like you could slice that onion so many ways.
There's so many layers to that swastika shaped onion.
I suppose that the next bit to that is: do you think that there's going to be a second wave in if we're to go forward with the idea of all the protesters and things like that? If we're going down the scientific route, do we think that there's going to be a second wave, so to speak? And do we think that the lockdown is going to be worse in your area or my area? Because I think it's going to be worse for us when it comes back round.
I think, honestly, all of this is a build-up to the ancient savage gods coming back. And before you know it, we're going to be building ziggurats and ripping people's hearts out.
No. Pyramids.
I was thinking Aztec, but
I'm gonna be on the side of the ghouls. I'm stepping up.
There we go.
Yeah, fair enough.
No, there's going to be a resurgence. I mean, I can't help but think a lot of this stuff is going to be doubly played up politically here in America, at least, for as long as possible, because they are going to do whatever they can to hit Trump with it in re-election.
Mm-hmm.
But
Like-
that's the thing, isn't it? It's a field day, whichever side you're on. That's what I mean when I said that. Like, you could say that the British government is letting all black people run wild because they want them to get infected, or you could just say that that they're sympathetic. You could look at it from both sides, and that's why it's a field day for everyone, and it's crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We live in an age of sympathetic Nazis. It's the yes, we're Nazis and fascists, but we care about you. It's kind of like what we did with the Indians. It's just different. It's like back then with the Indians, we're like, here, have this smallpox blanket, and nowadays it's more like, here's your plague iPhone. Here's your COVID-19 iPhone. People don't realize
you could certainly spin it that way.
Yeah, people are not concerned with the long-term ramifications. They want to be angry, and they want to scream, and they have every right to protest as long as it's peaceful. You go out and scream your head off, be angry, but they don't realize that you're only hurting your own rights and the rights of people in your community when you burn shit down and break shit and throw shit and try to fucking murder people because you're angry.
Right. And COVID adds another dimension to it. You're actually hurting yourself.
Yeah, that too. I'm already seeing reports, like news reporting of like protesters just popped positive for COVID-19, and it's like, it's coming back. Here we go.
Oh yeah. We're
going to keep it going as long as possible, because come election time, they know Joe Biden is kind of a drooling moron, right? And so they need as much possible. Like, I'm not saying that they caused this, but what I'm saying is when these situations happen, like the George Floyd thing, like COVID-19 hurting our economy and everything, they stoke the fire for political reasons. This could have been just a mass protest in Minneapolis, and it could have been just the idea that the Minneapolis police need to be reformed.
I'm so sick and tired of fucking hyperbole. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just, it just fucking rubs me the wrong way.
I'm quite annoyed by the idea of political point scoring, where situations happen, and doesn't matter what side of the aisle you are, that each side will try and spin it so it benefits them, rather than just dealing with what the fuck is in front of them. If you need reform. If you need to sort something out, sort it out. Don't use it to kick the fucking ball down the road to try and beat the head of the other guy. Just do something.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. It's being wielded as a political cudgel at the moment because it's an election year and they want Trump gone. They will fucking do whatever it takes. They'll destroy their own neighborhoods. They'll destroy their own communities. They'll destroy their own cities, their entire states, no matter what it takes, just so they can pin it on him. They want him gone that badly.
Right.
And that's not like me endorsing Trump either. There's a lot of shit that Trump does that just kind of pisses me off, especially when he gets on Twitter.
For sure.
But that being said, I'm also not one of these people that believes he's the great Satan.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, he's a fucking idiot on Twitter. I'm the first one to sign up on that one.
Yeah.
But then you have people who's saying like, "Oh my God, you're a murderer. You have murdered 100,000 Americans." Like, come on, dude. Every country is losing. We're not that much above anyone else. Like, we kind of have like sort of an average death rate compared to, we're below Italy for sure. So like, what are you talking about? He didn't murder 100,000 Americans.
Yeah.
But at the other, like I said, on the other side of the spectrum, I fucking hate it when he gets on Twitter and spews out his idiotic tweets. So I don't know what to say. I'm divided.
But that's the thing. You should be about your political leaders. Like, anybody should be divided about their political leaders. Anybody that wholeheartedly follows Trump, Boris Johnson, Jeremy Corbyn, or anybody, if they follow them wholeheartedly, then they're not looking at policies. They're not looking at action, and they bought into the theological idea of politics rather than the actual.
That's very true. I agree with that.
Yeah. For some reason, people in the chat are asking how much I know about smallpox blankets.
What?
I
Why?
told them that you were joking, mate. I told them that you were joking. They didn't
clearly
believe
a fucking joke. Like nobody believes that we
Oh,
purposely.
for fuck! Can we just have
Oh my
jokes?
god! Yeah, nobody believes because we didn't know what viral warfare was back then. We didn't know we were giving those people that disease. We didn't fucking understand viruses back then. Come on.
No, but it doesn't matter. We can just have jokes.
Europeans did bring smallpox with them.
Yeah,
But
just
we
not
didn't-
intentionally.
Everyone knows
fucking-
that.
Yeah, we didn't fucking know. We didn't know back then. Jesus. But smallpox blankets thing is a funny joke. Like I was watching F is for Family,
Mhm.
and there's an episode in it where it's a Bill Burr show. If you guys never watched F is for Family on Netflix, it's an animated show by comedian Bill Burr, and it takes place in like the 70s, and it's very kind of offensive. And there's an episode because the father of the family, Bill Burr's character, works for a airline company. It's like a small airline company, and it's like Native American Airlines because back then like shit was really offensive in the 70s, and they did like a commercial with like the CEO of this airline company, and the mascot of the airline was like a fucking Native American dressed with the headgear and everything, and he's on the plane, and the stewardess is all like walks up to the Indian and is all like, "Would you like a blanket, sir?" And he's like, "No." And I laughed my fucking ass off. So,
That's a good one.
We didn't like purposely do viral warfare against the Indians. We didn't know what we were doing, but at the same time, we did bring smallpox with us. I mean, they were not. The Native American population was not ready for that new disease.
Well,
hell, we
technically, it
were.
wasn't
How many people died of smallpox in Europe too? I mean, fucking hell.
Millions, but technically it wasn't actually a new disease. Technically, they actually had a variant of smallpox, but the variant of smallpox that they had wasn't a viral infection. Well, I say viral infection, sorry. It wasn't an infection that actually spread to actually hurt anybody. It was actually ones that was actually beneficial to the Native Americans at the time. So it's interesting that because we brought it back over, it actually mutated. But hey,
Well, there's different strains, right?
Sorry.
There's different strains, right? Like there's multiple strains of COVID. This is just the newest one, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, are we sure about that though?
Yes.
Yes, the monkeys run off with the test tubes. We are sure that it's a new strain.
Oh God, that did happen. I forgot about that. Did you not hear about that, dude? Like some guy in China was like leaving the pharmaceutical company with COVID-19 samples.
Give me a break.
And a monkey ran up and stole them from him.
No, come on.
It was national news. It was on national news.
Fuck.
Security video. But but it was more of a joke. Like it was more something to make fun of because obviously the monkey couldn't open the container. So nothing like happened from it. But it is funny that a monkey ran up and thought he had food or a lunchbox or something and was like, "Give me that shit."
Fucking hell. Jesus Christ. All right. Well, I'm just gonna put it out there. Like we have lots of Trident nuclear submarines. I'm just saying. Can we maybe use them?
Destroy ours.
Another video that recently went viral that I saw today was I either saw it last night or this morning was the mayor of
shame
yeah, where he was standing, and this dude, like, I didn't even know he was the mayor. Like, he looks so young. Like, do you have to be out of high school to be mayor? Like, anyway,
crying. Did you see him fake crying at the casket?
Oh yeah. But then the mayor was at this protest, and this black lady had the microphone, and he walked up to the stage and was like, "Yes, I support BLM," and everybody was cheering. And then they were like, "We don't want any more cops. Are you going to abolish the cops?" And he was like, "Oh shit." He was like, I don't know. He knew he was like damned if you do and damned if you don't, because he, once again, politically, they're trying to kind of kowtow to the lowest common denominator to get a few votes, but they also don't want to they don't also want to like alienate their larger base either. So they always kind of try to walk the line. Well, he just got trapped because she was like, "We don't want the police. Are you going to abolish the police?" And she put the microphone down, and he was like, "No, I don't think we're going to abolish the police." And they were like, "Get the fuck out of here!" And he had to, like, shamefully walk through this crowd of people, like cursing at him, and it was like that scene from Game of Thrones with Cersei walking naked through the
shame,
street.
shame.
Shame.
Ring your bell. Ring your bell.
Ring the bell. Big shame. You know?
All right. Common sense guy.
Yes.
What kind of leanings do you have?
Oh, I suppose I was talking to Magog about this before we went on. I'm very capitalistic in my economics, but I'm very liberal when it comes to my social standings. So I'm kind of centrist, I suppose.
Right.
How dare you?
Yeah, dirty centrist.
Dirty centrist.
But does that mean that I'm a English centrist, or would I be an American lefty?
I don't know. I mean, for me personally, I just see it as a point of, I don't know. I don't want to attach myself to someone else's point of view, or I don't want to say that I am responsible for what this party does or for what that party does. I'm saying I'll vote for the party that does what I want them to do. I'm not supporting anyone. I'm not promoting anyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I think that's the way that politics should be. You shouldn't be under the understanding that I'm going to support Trump or Boris Johnson because they are these people. I'm going to support them because of the policies that I think best represents me.
Especially and if they deviate from that, they can get the fuck out.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I would also like to add that as much as I like to say that's the way I think too, I'd like to think that I would vote for a Democrat if they stand for the things I believe in. Never in my life since I reached voting age have I voted Democrat.
Well, I have.
I
voted Labor once.
I just never found. Maybe I'm a bit more conservative.
I am a dirty centrist.
Yep.
Yeah, I just never had any inkling towards. But then again, I'm a different age too. Like the only Democrat that I was.
Well, I don't really care about Democrats and Republicans. I care about civil libertarianism.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about is you end up picking the guy no matter what party. I'm just saying that I've never really agreed.
But
with
here's the thing, though. There are a bunch of people that conflate centrism with just being in the center. I'm in the center. That doesn't actually mean that I'm a centrist. I don't know if you guys know the difference.
You can, try and explain it to me. I don't know.
Well, I mean, Angela Merkel is a perfect example of being a centrist. That is an actual centrist, and that is something I'm definitely opposed to. She is sort of concentrating power in the middle and making sure the parties on the sides can't get enough votes to ever threaten her. That's kind of like building a dictatorship. And that's kind of what the danger of real centrism is, if you know what I mean. I'm just saying I am a swing voter. I'll vote for whoever gives me the most money or whatever it is, you know. Whoever gets me the best deal gets the job.
Well, the reason I'd like to clarify too that because of my age, I never voted for a Democrat because there was only one Democrat even worth voting for, and it was Obama. Like the first election I could have I voted in was Bush, like because I graduated high school in 2003. So really, I've only gone through since reaching voting age. I've only gone through 3 presidents, and that's Bush, Obama, and Trump. Right. So I mean, I wasn't going to vote a Democrat after, against, I wasn't going to vote against Bush. Nobody really did back then because, the whole 9/11 thing. And he did have a good message, even though I disagree with him now, looking back on it. There was no reason to go to Iraq because of 9/11. Now, there was a reason to get Saddam out because he was a fucking asshole. But, hindsight 2020 and all that stuff. But Obama, I think I voted Republican both times, even though we lost with Obama. I didn't hate Obama to my fucking core, but I disagreed with most of he was a good talker. He's very charismatic. He was but he to me, in my eyes, especially being a military man at the time, he didn't have a spine, in my opinion. Like, he did not stand up to foreign
that red line kept moving, didn't it?
Yeah,
there's always that. Like, every fucking time, there's like the extreme on this side, the extreme on that side. Like, can we not have like a president going kowtowing before Muslims, and then the other one is like trying to start a nuclear war with North Korea? Like, that's what I think about centrism.
Right. I think there's also like a divide. People, centrism and centrist have become like dirty words.
Maybe I should not use that word, because, like I said, that is an actual political term that defines those kind of people like Angela Merkel, who are trying to make a centrist power that freezes out the parties on the side. Right. So that's not what I want at all. I just want to be a swing voter. I want to see the best deal. Who's got the best deal? Who you? Come on, give me your best deal. That's
so. I'm doomed as a confirmed swinger.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Goddamn fence post is far up your ass.
Oh yeah. Whoever gives me the best money deal. Oh yeah. I'm a whore.
That's not a bad way to do things. Like, I've always kind of believed that I should listen to the candidates on both sides and then decide.
That's Ayn Rand, enlightened self-interest.
Right. There's kind of a breakdown in traditional morality that's kind of shifting politics as well. Used to be, if you look back through history, at least here in America, I'm not sure about other countries, but Democrats and Republicans weren't that far apart. I mean, think back to like Kennedy, family man, Catholic, Christian values, nuclear family.
But he was still looked at as an outsider.
Yeah, and he wasn't that. I mean, if you look at it from that point of view, politically, especially socially, the social moral standards of the time, he wasn't that different than Republicans of that time either, who were
it was basically it was just that he was a Catholic. That was his main problem, quote unquote.
No, his main problem to most Americans at the time was he definitely played to the black vote, and at the time,
sure, but don't underestimate that fact that he was a Catholic, because that was a huge deal.
Yeah, because so many presidents, so many Christians were like Baptists, and so Catholic politicians always were kind of seen differently.
That was a huge thing.
Yeah, that was a pretty big thing. But if you look at it in that way, though, I mean, they were still like clean kind of nuclear family kind of values. The American dream, wearing nice suits, clean shaven. And now you look at the differences between the left and the right in America, and it's way different. Like, you can tell who's left and right based on how they live their lives. So there's a breakdown in traditional moral values within political structures in America these days. Whether or not that's a good or bad thing is up to you guys. I'm just bringing it up because it might be something that pushes people towards the center. Because there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, I don't care if you're gay. I'm not worried about gay marriage, and trans people. You do what you want to do as long as you don't put it in my face. But at the same time, I kind of I kind of do believe that a family should have a mother and a father. And that's what kind of makes a lot of people centrist in kind of the generic term, right? Kind of, and so we're starting to see that kind of extreme separation. Like the extremes of both end are really extreme. And then everybody's kind of everybody else is kind of in the middle trying to figure shit out based on individual issues. You know, and like political, both political issues and then foreign policy, and then you got like social issues. And you'd be surprised how many people you talk to that you think is like a radical leftist or a radical alt-right person, and you really talk to them, and you might actually agree on some things, you know, on both sides, you know.
I've got a quick question for both of you then on this type of situation with the idea of traditionalism. And obviously, I think most of us would say that traditionalism is probably etched in the idea of a foundation of religion of some aspect. Do we think that the idea... Now, before I say this, I am completely and utter atheist. I don't believe in any religion whatsoever, so I'm not doing this for a religious aspect. But do we think that the way that people have moved away from a foundation of religion, that doesn't mean believing in a God necessarily, but the foundation of itself has pushed people away politically rather than bringing them together? Because as you said, the Democrats had some form of religion and so did the right. So was that a form of bringing people together, that you're Catholic, so we come together, or you're Christian, we do this, blah, blah, blah?
All ideologies work that way.
Yeah.
You could have a right-leaning person and a left-leaning person, but they're both Catholic, and they'll at least agree on that. You know, I think ideologies have just become incredibly fierce because we're exposed to more points of view. Because
here's the thing. Here's the thing that I'm sort of questioning myself on, and that is if are these things actually getting worse, or is it just the way we humans perceive time? I don't know. Do you understand what I mean?
No, I do actually. I think it's a very interesting question.
Well, I'll kind of keep this political because that's the discussion. But that is an interesting idea, because I've kind of thought of something similar, which is this idea that culture and politics and you know, like society exponentially moves faster.
Right. But at the same time, you have to keep this question in mind, and that is you kids.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean?
I'm getting to that. Let me finish this thought process here. Okay, so I think that society, culture, and politics is exponentially moving faster and faster because of technology, the digital age, and the kind of better time we're living in. Even with all this shit going on, it's still the best time to live as a human being in this world, because, I mean...
Well, there's no question about that.
Right. I mean, medicine and food and, you know, all this and that. But we still have these ideas that we're like perceiving time, I think, slower than it's moving. And that's how you end up getting people who are like, we were slaves only like 100 years ago. Well, in that 100 years, though, look how much has changed in just that short amount of time. Look how fast everything has moved since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, right? Like humanity was pretty fucking slow going up until like the Enlightenment period. And then it just started moving a little faster and faster and faster. And then before you know it, in my lifetime, in my lifetime, there was censorship on the radio. You could, if you bought a CD from Walmart, it would have the F word blanked out in the songs. So you had to buy, if you wanted the song as it was, you had to buy it from like Best Buy or Hastings or something, right? And that's just in my lifetime. In my parents' lifetime, when they were kids, not kids, but teenagers, it was still illegal to marry a black person.
Right.
It was, if you got pregnant out of wedlock, you'd be run out of town on a rail. And that's just in their lifetime. Right? So think about how fast things are moving and how fast things change, but we're still perceiving this idea that we were oppressed 50 years ago, you know, and that we're still being oppressed now because of that. And it's like, well, not really. Look at how much has changed. And so there's this I think you're kind of onto something. How we perceive time compared to how much is changing within that same time period is something to kind of consider politically and socially, right? I don't know if I'm coming off clear enough, but it is one of those things where it's like, you know, you always see like the black community going, you know, the white man's holding us down and we were slaves and all this and that. And it's like, but you're blaming a whole lot of people on shit that, you know, or you're blaming a whole lot of shit on people that weren't even alive, you know? Like,
right. Yeah, I certainly don't agree with anyone taking responsibility for things that they didn't do.
Yeah. I suppose with your question, my aspects of trying to understand the reasons why I perceive the divide, so to speak, happening is I would have to say that because we're animals and we are tribalistic as animals, I would say that because as we've just kind of touched on, with the idea of a unifying aspect which religion came from. Now, that doesn't mean that you needed to fully believe in a God to be religious, but it was a label, it was a tribe. We're Christians, we're Catholics, we're Muslim, we're blah, blah, blah. I think that tribalism is now split, that religiosity is split, and it's gone into subgroups of politics. I think with the subgroups of politics, we're now going into even more aspects of tribalism, where it's not okay just to say, oh, I'm a Labour supporter. You've now got to be a Labour Black Lives supporter. And you can't just be a Labour Black Lives supporter. You've got to be a Labour Black Lives supporter that's a communist. And I think we're getting more hyper-focused on tribalism. And with that tribalism and that hyper-focusing of it, I personally think that's the reason where that hatred is coming from, that divide, because we're now separating each other and we're othering each other. And it's now so easy to do. And people in the same ideological standpoint, like the Labour communist, if they are hating each other, even though they're almost politically aligned, how much hatred do they have for the opposite side and vice versa? That hatred just keeps on pushing each other exponentially away. And that's where I think that the divide is stemming from. But that's just a theory, obviously.
No, but it's good. It's good. When I grew up, we really didn't care about political parties that much. It wasn't really important. But we all knew that this dad had this leaning and that dad had that leaning. And it's like, whatever. But it seems to have devolved, and it's probably a good word for it, into being almost like a religion now. It's people or kids, I guess, who are, I don't know, maybe 15, something like that. They shouldn't even have to care about that. They can't even vote. Why would they care? But they do, and they are starting to hate people who have a different opinion. It doesn't matter if it's left or right. It's pointless hatred. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All I have to say to your point about tribalism is welcome to the human condition.
Yeah.
Because
that's what I'm just saying. Like, that's what I meant about the thing with maybe it's worse, and I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is, or maybe it's just get off my fucking lawn. Maybe I'm just old.
Yeah. No, it's an ebb and flow thing, but
I don't know if it's worse.
Historically,
it seems it's like it's a lot worse, or maybe it's not. I don't know. I mean, we all die, and then a new generation comes up. How do we know if it's worse?
Well, sure. I mean, you are right, but like I said, that's why there's an ebb and flow. There are periods of relative, like, political peace. People just kind of accept the system as it is, and then something happens and it compounds, and then something else happens and it compounds.
Well, it just seems like it was. It seems like it was pretty fucking stable for all my life until the last 5 years.
That's because it was. The 80s and 90s were an incredible time in our country.
Well, and the 2000s, 2010s, and then 2015, something happened. You know what I mean?
Gamergate. Oh, wait. Sargon's not here.
No, it wasn't that, but that was a symptom of something else, basically.
But what I was trying to say is, though, at the same time, even though there is an ebb and flow, historically, religion has always been right down the street from politics.
Yeah.
They're on the same road. They're just like neighbors across from each other, right? Like there's always been kind of, these kind of heavier religious bases that build on politics. It's like, oh, I'm a Christian and you're a Christian, so you should vote for me, even if we disagree on some things, because we share that kind of tribe, right?
Yeah,
right.
So religion has always been kind of downriver from politics. They're interconnected, different sides of the same coin almost. Because people have to find common ground in kind of that heavier.
Yeah, but not even that works anymore.
Not really, because I think we're also seeing.
We're seeing obviously, especially in your country, Common Sense Guy. Should I call you Common Sense Guy, or do you have like a shorter name?
Just call me Jason.
Okay, Jason. So, especially in your country, this is interesting because I don't know. I haven't really seen any examples of this that are as clear as they are in the UK. But obviously, Muslims, or at least sort of heavy-duty Muslims, would be considered right-wing, but they always vote left-wing. How do you explain that?
Very easily. Very, very easily. And that's
I know it's easy, but it's an interesting thing to think about, isn't it?
No, because as you quite rightly said beforehand, you're voting for what financially gains you in the best way. Because
exactly
doesn't matter with their idea of atheism or anything else like that. Their political alignment, because they sometimes form their own communities, they just want the money, and they form their own communities and live out the way that they want to live regardless.
So they detach themselves from it.
In some aspects, yes.
Yeah, it's the same with how like feminists will defend Islam, even though Islam is traditionally
right. Yeah, that's also an interesting question.
Very, very traditional religion where the roles of men and women are clearly defined.
Feminism would be abolished, obviously, at the first second they gain power.
Yeah, it's Pride Month, and if it wasn't for these riots and the George Floyd stuff and the COVID-19, we'd probably be dealing with yet again more gay people in the West, going, supporting Islam in order to push their political ideology that, everybody's kind of the same, which is crazy. But over in Islamic countries, gay people are thrown off the roof,
Right. Yeah, I've never understood that one. And that never makes any sense to me. Like, okay. And here's the thing. Here's what I always ask. And I think it's a valid question. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it kind of a point to have different countries, to have different places for people? Shouldn't we just allow people? I mean, in that sense, I'm kind of like thinking about maybe open borders would be good if we could just define borders to be like, all right, here's what we want in this country. If you go here, we're going to have lots of guns, lots of freedom, and that's what we have here. If you go over here, we're going to have lots of Islam. That's good. Over here, we're going to have this and that. We're going to have a communist country, blah, blah, blah. Everyone could go where they want. I know it's completely stupid. It can never happen. But it's an interesting thought experiment. You know what I mean?
Well, in essence, there is no real reason in thought why it shouldn't happen. The only problem is humans are greedy and we want more aspects for more ground for our own ideology. So we're going to take more room from other ideologies.
Right. That's what I mean. It couldn't work. It can't work. But it's a thought experiment.
It's an interesting one. I mean, because a lot of people always attach to the idea of borders, like the borders define their country, so to speak. When
we protect our countries because there's other people who want to come in and change it. But what if the countries could be just defined like this is this country?
That's exactly where I was going to go. That because we normally define our borders as a point of our countries, and our countries, as you quite rightly state, are normally defined by the way that we have our culture, how we set up our laws, so on and so forth. If we were able to get rid of those ideological stand-ins, where if you just go, as you said, if you travel across this river, then this is completely different and you stick with different things, then yeah, there's a possibility that type of thing could work. But humans are cunts, with no other word to put in it.
Yeah, I don't have any hope for it working, but I think maybe it should. Maybe that would be better, but it won't work.
that just stems from human evolution being basically a massive gang war. You know?
Yeah. I mean, sure, it goes back to
for territory and resources and all kinds of
any predator has to compete amongst themselves.
Right. I kind of get what you're saying because it's like an American way of thinking. Like here in the States, you can travel between states without papers, without a passport. You can just drive. I can just get in my car and drive to Tennessee today. I can get in my car and drive to Louisiana. And we don't get stopped at the border. However, when I get to those states, there might be a slightly different culture than where I came from.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yes.
There is such a difference between Arkansas and Louisiana that just driving over the border.
And that's what I don't like about this current thing, where they're trying to make everything the same across the country. Like, okay, can we just like have different states?
Yeah.
It used to be okay that Texans were the way they were, but now half of California has moved in, and now Texas is going to become the new California.
Once again, it's tribal warfare. That's what. Yeah. It's like, this is our ideology. It works. It totally works. So we're going to go over there and implement it. And it's like, but it doesn't work. You're leaving California for a fucking reason. Like, it is shit in California. It is a fucking garbage pit. At least from my point of view, I see the shit happening in like LA. Now, probably out in the country, smaller towns in California, there's a lot more conservative areas in California than you might think. They just never win elections.
They don't have any pull.
Big cities, right? But when you look at the shit going on in LA, San Diego, San Francisco, the big cities in California, I'm watching it on screen going, who the fuck would live there? It's a plague pit. It's like literally the bubonic plague came back in LA. And I'm like, I thought we had that one beat. Like, I at least thought we had that one beat. Like, the bubonic plague was not supposed to be here anymore.
Yeah.
It's kind of terrible.
Unbelievable.
It comes from cultural things, too. Like, Arkansas is kind of where I live, is kind of like one of America's little, like, secret backwater places, because you talk to people in Arkansas, there's all kinds of different points of views. We have our liberals here too. They're mostly in Little Rock and some of the other bigger cities like Russellville and Fort Smith, but Fayetteville. But if you talk to most Arkansans, we don't want people to come here. We don't want you to move here. We come and visit.
Well, we would have been okay if you didn't export Clinton.
Sure. Well, we had to. He was our governor, and we didn't like him, so we voted for him to become president, so he wouldn't be our governor anymore. We were like, oh, it's time for the rest of the country to know our pain.
Oh.
Dude, and I hate it too, man. You know, they changed the name of our airport, right? Like, it used to be the Little Rock National Airport. Very simple, basic. It was that since like the 70s.
Yeah.
But now it is renamed the Bill and Hillary Clinton.
Oh, Bill and Hillary.
Yes, the Bill and Hillary Clinton National Airport.
Right.
Yes.
Nice.
So, and she wasn't even a fucking president. She just,
No, she just slid up on there on Monica Lewinsky's. We better not talk about that.
All I'm saying is that Hillary Clinton seems to have a massive kind of, but she also has like this like massive influence within the Democratic Party, and she's a big fucking loser.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't understand it, but they want to put her name on shit like she was president, and she wasn't.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, she was on Twitter today or yesterday or something. I don't even remember what it was, but I saw people were talking about her. There was a huge hashtag, actually, now that I think about it, which was funny because it was "Shut Up, Hillary."
Yeah. How many times have politicians played that game, and that game doesn't work anymore because of digital technology and social media? We get to see their hypocrisy live in fucking within minutes.
But like, it's all water off a duck's back with her.
Oh yeah, I mean, I talk about like politicians kowtowing to the lowest common denominator and things like that, but they also play up to their base to the point of being ridiculous. Like, I remember a time, it wasn't that long ago, when Hillary was running against Trump, that she got on some like black news radio show and was like, I carry hot sauce in my bag. And it's like, that was so blatantly fucking like pandering.
The fuck are you talking about?
You don't remember that when Hillary Clinton was like,
no, I don't remember it. But I was also like, I wasn't really addressing the question to you. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, she did that. She was like, in order to pander to the black vote,
right?
She was like, I carry hot sauce in my bag, and everybody was like, ew.
That's fucking
like,
retarded.
Cringe. Like cringe. And it's the same with that, like the Portland mayor or whatever, like crying at the Minneapolis mayor crying at the altar of George Floyd, like he's some sort of saint that's been, martyred.
I don't understand it. Can politicians just, force up tears like actors?
He did.
Yeah, obviously, but is that like a requirement?
Doku in the chat said, Magog, that was a speech she gave in South Carolina. I didn't see the speech, but I do know she was on like a black radio host because there was like two black people and they had microphones and she was sitting between them. And they must have been asking her about the speech because on that show she was all like, "Oh no, it's true. I carry hot sauce in my bag everywhere I go. I put it on everything." And it's like,
I carried up my vagina.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. I just got a picture of that. Cheers.
Yeah.
Picture that.
There's a reason.
Enjoy.
There's a reason old Slick Willie went outside of his marriage. Okay, like he probably been like, Bill, why are you always cheating on Hillary? Because her vagina has teeth.
I wouldn't be.
And hot sauce. Have you ever gotten hot sauce on your dick?
Oh. No, I'm doomed. There's never been a situation.
I have.
Were you eating a burrito naked? Like, I don't understand the logistics of getting hot sauce on your dick.
Eating stuff and then getting in the mood with the girl, Yeah, it happened.
Oh, I don't. You know what? I don't want to think about it now. I want to move on from this conversation. Can we talk about tits again? Can we do that?
I suppose that's been going for around about 2 hours. That's probably a good idea to call it. The hot sauce on Undoom's dick. Yeah, I think it's time. I think we've finished.
My dick was more powerful than the hot sauce, so keep that in mind.
I just love how we end streams with Undoom's hot sauce dick. Like, that's how we're going to end the unprofessionals from here on.
Love it. There you go.
Practice me.
Thank you very much, guys, for coming on. I've really enjoyed it. It's been actually really interesting and really fun at the same time. It's actually been really cool. And thank you guys for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I hope you guys who were listening had fun too.
Fuck them.
Yeah, when I'm on other people's shows, I like to end with like a little speech that for everybody watching, even if we disagree on some things and what I talk about on this show, just never forget that disagreeing is kind of part of being free and
human.
Yeah, and we're allowed to disagree, but we could still get along. And I hope you guys have enjoyed our little chat. And just also don't forget that I'm like 90% a joke. Like my basically just I look for the punchline and everything. I just love to crack jokes. And so at the end of the day, I may have my political leanings, and I'm very right leaning compared to a lot of YouTubers. I'm proud. I'm a proud conservative. But that doesn't mean that I'm close-minded, and I hope everybody enjoyed it.
Again, thank you everyone for turning in, watching the channel, watching us have an amazing conversation, and we hope to do it all again sometime soon. Thank you, guys.